Formula One is back and we're making our way to the Netherlands for the Dutch GP. I do think this track is very underrated. We haven't had it for a while, so there's not many races to go off of, but it either provides one of the best races of the year or one of the most boring ones. Now, drivers have talked a lot about this track being a little too small for Formula One, very hard to overtake, but the enjoyability of driving on this track seems to be a favorite for a lot of these drivers. I definitely think it deserves a place. It's only got about a year left, and then we'll have to see if it renews its contract. The possibility of that happening is probably slim, but we've had all-time bangers here. Like in 2023, that race in general was one of the best that we had in what was a very boring season. It was the perfect condition of rain coming in at some times, and the choice of either being on the dry or the intermediate was also very important. And with it being such a technical track, it made it very interesting. Only the best drivers really survived till the end and made their way through the field. Fernando had a fantastic race here. Max was unstoppable. I think this is also when he won 10 in a row. That was quite the race. But then in 21, you had a complete contrast. It was a dry race. Yes, we had the whole Lewis, Hamilton, and Max Verstappen battle happening that year, but even that wasn't close, and there were only 3 drivers that were not lapped in that year of that race. So, like I said, this track either gives you an all-time or an all-time snoozer. But with that being said, we can go into our preview for Zandvoort. We do have a difference in tires this year, and we have gone for a softer compound. Before, it was the C1 to the C3. They're trying to encourage a 2-stop this year. I think the FIA is actually doing a pretty good job as of recently to try and see if they can sway the teams to go for different strategies, have to pit stop more, because they've realized that makes the race much more entertaining. And I'm glad they're trying to do that with it going from C2 to C4. It's a bit softer. It's a track that has big time tire stress because of the way that these corners are set up and really that elevation that it provides, really putting a lot of stress on the fronts. In general, sectors 1, 2, and 3 all burn through rubber very quickly. Now, it's been a one-stop for the past couple of years, and really the tire differential between medium to hard, it's not much pace, so going for that medium to hard is usually the most optimal strategy. We have seen softs be used here. It's also one of those tracks that in qualifying, it's super close, and the margin is very small. Now, it does look like we should be getting rain throughout the weekend, which is when I think this track is best. You could say that for every track, but this track in general, because of how tricky and technical it is, as long as they have it going, I love a wet race in Zandvoort, especially if it's right in between dries and really that intermediate tire, like in 23. I am for that. It could give us the best race of the year. And then maybe there's a chance of somebody fighting with those McLarens. But to add on to try promoting that 2-stop, the FIA has actually raised the pit limit speed from 60 to 80 kilometers an hour. And they're trying to make it possible for this 2-stop, but I'm pretty sure most teams are still going to go for the 1-stop. If it's intermediates, maybe there's a possibility of a 2-stop. That'd be great. A couple of things to look out for as we make our way to Zandvoort. Now, there's been a lot of talk of the Cadillac lineup. It seems to be confirmed of Sergio and Bottas. It should be fully confirmed by F1 this weekend, maybe even earlier. Maybe as I'm recording the video, it says that it is. I've seen ESPN report on it. I've seen the race report on it. So more than likely, that is the lineup, but we should get an official confirmation sometime this week or weekend. There's also been a lot of rumors floating around that Colapinto is probably not going to have a seat for 2026. I mean, the performances aren't there, but we really haven't seen the most out of him. He's a driver that I think hasn't extracted that potential just yet. Is that potential really high like a lot of other drivers? I'm not sure. I really can't say much about it. There's also some big rumors of Red Bull's 2026 lineup. Apparently, Alex Palou is getting thrown into the mix. I don't know how much I trust this, and really if it's just BS floating in the air, which happens pretty often in Formula One. Would I like to see him in F1? Yeah, I think if he did drive for Red Bull next to Max Verstappen, he'd probably look like one of the worst drivers in Formula One. I don't think he can compete with Max. Yes, he's a legend in IndyCar, but this is a different sport, and I just don't think anybody next to Max will look good unless you've been in the sport long enough to actually know how good this guy is. But that might be a hot take. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's also going to be interesting to see if Ferrari can bounce back. They had a great weekend in Hungary, but it was only great in qualifying. In the race, that's where it went south. This is a track that's pretty similar to Hungary. I think Ferrari can do better. Let's see if they can actually make a strategy work for once and not have the tire pressure be a hindrance, but I don't think so. This car just seems to be completely in the mud for 2025, and hopefully 26 will be a lot better. But with that being said, we'll go over the predictions. I want you guys to go on Unchained Media Inc., put in your predictions. The website is getting a evolution very, very soon, a big upgrade to it. And I gotta say, it's a much more modern and sleek look. I'll maybe give you a preview for like a second or two just to get you guys excited. But with a couple of glitches fixed, it should be there soon. Anyways, go to the forum, make your predictions. I'm about to make them with you very, very soon. A lot of prizes to be won, a lot more categories coming. That's another big thing. A lot of you guys have left comments. I listened. It's going to be a lot of good stuff. Maybe some things you didn't expect. But go drop your predictions. Let's talk about mine for the Dutch GP. Let's talk about worst and best teams. Starting off with worst first. I think this became harder and harder throughout the year, but Alpine to me right now has solidified being that 10th team. Their tire wear isn't incredible. The balance of the car isn't great either. I think in Hungary they weren't great. I expect the same here in Zandvoort. There are times that the Alpine has scored. I still think it's the 10th worst car, but not by much. I also think 9th and 8th seem to be pretty solidified as well. It does seem like Aston Martin and Williams are a little bit ahead of the field, and same with Sauber. I do believe the Haas car to be 9th. There are times that they can extract the full potential of this car. Still an upgrade coming. I did read about that. But for me, 9th for Haas, 8th is going to be Racing Bulls. They're all very close. Honestly, any team can score points, but these are the 3 worst as of right now. And if I did have to put up the midfield car I believe to be best here at Zandvoort, I think it's going to be Aston Martin again. They were great in Hungary. It's a track that has a lot of similar characteristics. I believe the team in green, especially with Fernando, could do very well here. Now looking at the best teams, the obvious number 1, 3 1-2s in the past 3 races. It's McLaren. I believe they're going to get a 1-2 here again. Possibly. That could be my prediction. Stay till the end. But if we go off car pace, they should get a 1-2. It's the fastest car, the McLaren. Now, second is very interesting, and I could go for a couple of different picks here because Mercedes put back on the rear suspension that was working. I think that's going to help them out tremendously, and they were pretty okay in Hungary. I think the car is still very far off the orange car, but they did finish on the podium with George Russell. Kimi's been a ways off in this season, I gotta say. But I do think the Ferrari car should be the second fastest. And I'm not just talking qualifying. I do believe in the race they should be the second fastest as well. Hopefully they actually learn off the error they made in Hungary, but it's possible they have to do that every time no matter what. Now, the way that Leclerc was talking about that on the radio makes me believe that they went against his word and they would rather take the risk of maybe disqualifying. Kind of crazy to think that you have this many years in the regulation period and you're still struggling with the plank being worn out, but it is Ferrari we're talking about. And for my third team, it's Mercedes. I do believe the Red Bull car to be the worst, and it was so bad in Hungary. I believe it's going to be the same deal here in Zandvoort, which will suck for Max, but it is what it is. The Red Bull car isn't what it used to be. Now, I'm still going to go over my Unchained driver, worst drive, and surprise team, but when this new evolution to the site comes out, I will use all of that and not really talk about these 3 anymore. But for now, let's go over my Unchained driver. I do believe it is going to be Fernando Alonso. This is one of those tracks that I think he excels at, no matter the car that he's given, and the AMR should do good here. Will he get into the top 5 again? I'm not sure. Would love to see it. I do believe he has a chance of making it there, and he will be the best and really the surprising driver of this weekend. Looking at my surprise team, I think it's going to be Mercedes. I do have them in third, but I also think they have the potential of going to second, with them changing back to rear suspension. When they did have that previous rear suspension on, they ended up winning in Canada. I think they can excel here. It should be a good track for them. And I think they'll be neck and neck with Ferrari. So I'll have them as my surprise team. And my worst drive for the weekend, it's going to be Kimi Antonelli. Something tells me on a technical track like this, he might suffer. Had a better weekend in Hungary if you go based off of the race. Qualifying was yet again a disaster. And his confidence is low. Maybe the summer break is what he needed and he proves me completely wrong. But this track is super difficult. I think with the way that he drives, it also could catch him out. A lot of gravel, very tricky curbs. Getting the most out of the time is also very difficult here in Zandvoort. So for me, it's going to be Kimi. And with that said, let's go over my top 5 here in Zandvoort. Okay, going off the dome per usual in this top 5 for the Dutch GP. I got a lot of things that I'm thinking for P5. I really want to throw up a kind of crazier prediction for P5. You know what? I'm doing it. Fernando Alonso, P5. Yet again, he's doing it 2 races in a row. Oh, Franco, that was not what I wanted. Fernando Alonso, I believe he can do it twice. Now, we got to keep in mind, last time Kimi was completely out of the fight. Lewis was nowhere in the fight. The Red Bull car was completely gone. But I do think a Red Bull car will be here, even with it being the 4th fastest. There's rain coming. The Rain Master, Max Verstappen, I do believe he can get 4th. I would love to throw up Lewis into here, but I just don't think in these top 3 places he can get himself here. But Leclerc isn't the greatest wet driver. I think Lewis is better than him. I think he's not a bad wet driver, but typically that's when his worst performances come out. Think Silverstone last year, and a couple of other times as well that I've just seen Leclerc not really show off in the wet weather. But I do believe this will be one of those weekends where he'll get himself on the podium, hopefully making up for what was a very bad Hungary GP. He should have been at least in the podium, probably should have won. They had the pace. I don't think they'll have the pace this weekend. Even with me predicting my 2nd place, this first car, the orange car, it's between these 2 drivers, Lando and Oscar. I do believe this to be a Lando track, so I will throw up Oscar in P2 and Lando Norris in P1. It's a track with a lot of tire wear. I think this is where Lando will excel over really the calendar year. On Oscar Piastri, there's not much of a difference like it used to be last year. I still believe Lando has a bit of that advantage in the race pace, and that will make a difference in some of these GPs. How much here? We'll have to see on the weekend. Fastest lap, I actually think Oscar is going to try and push and get there, but will not end up actually achieving first. And Constructors winner, I mean, pretty obvious. The orange car should be everybody's guess every single weekend when it comes to these predictions. That's going to do it for my preview here in Zandvoort. Go make your predictions on UnchainedMediaInc.com. Thank you all so much for the support. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.